I live in a pretty big house with around 15 acres of nothing but woods behind it. There is a river that runs through there that me and my friend always like to fish on. One day, I called him up to come over and go fishing. It was a rainy, cold, and all around miserable April day. Regardless, we still went fishing. The moment we got to the river, he said he felt uneasy, like something was watching him. I didn't think much of it until later. I felt a strong discomfort, as if something terrible was happening literally hundreds of feet away from us. We caught some fish after shaking off the discomfort, and wanted to move to another spot, as the spot we had been fishing had died out. Once we reached the other spot, we sat down and ate some snacks. We continued fishing for 20 minutes, until I saw something far back in the woods. I saw a light, the kind of light a fire emits. I didn't think anything of it until I heard loud talking, almost like mumbling. I told my friend that I had been asleep when I saw it. We decided we would go and see if anything was wrong. As we got closer, the more and more scary it got. We arrived at the area it was. There were multiple candles circling an upside-down star with a small fire in the middle. This was unsettling to me to start off with, until I saw streaks of blood on the rocks that were positioned next to where this had been taking place. Out of pure discomfort, I looked up to check my surroundings, only to see a man, only about 50 meters away, staring at us. We quickly grabbed our supplies and ran for what seemed like hours. At my house, we locked the doors and hid in the attic out of instinct. It felt like something was in my house. After further examination, nothing had entered my house, but I still feel the presence of something evil, feeling creeping around my house. I have kept this story a secret up to this date. There has no longer been any suspicious activity found in my woods, but I cannot forget what I saw that day. About 10 years ago, I lived in Hollywood Hills, on the street that leads up to the Hollywood sign. It's all twisty canyon roads, very narrow, branching off onto our street. And I used to go for walks in the mornings for exercise. It was easy to get lost in the little side streets. Some were one way, all of them up and down hills and around tight corners. One morning, just after dawn, I was out on a walk and a car pulled up next to me. This car was a huge old 70s Chrysler or Buick or something. The passenger in the front rolled down the window, and I stepped back, because I was in shock by what I saw. The driver, the passenger, 2 of the 3 people in the back were dead. They were all men in their 20s. Their skin was an awful shade of gray, and they all had various bruises on their faces and arms. The car was full of trash on the dashboard, and a hideous smell came out from the open window. The only one who looked alive was a teenage girl, sitting between the 2 men in the back seat. The passenger asked how to get to the Hollywood sign. The sign itself was the site of a suicide, and the hills have a history of cults and paranormal activity. I told him, "You can't get to the sign. It's all fenced off and you can't even get near it." He said, "No, we need to get up to the sign. How do you get there?" The man was really insistent, and the girl in the back looked terrified. I really felt like she was in danger and wanted to escape, but I had no way of fighting off 4 men. I'm a pretty small woman myself. I knew they were going to take her to the sign and do something to her. I started backing away, back up the hill I had walked down, because I was afraid they'd follow me, and I didn't want them to know where I lived. The man in the front started to open the door, and I said, "Okay, go down to the stop sign there and turn right." He sat back in his seat, and they slowly drove off and turned right. The girl looked back at me as they drove away. The Hollywood sign actually was to the left, but I told them to go right so they would go out of the canyon onto a main street. I waited for the car to go into the direction I told them to, and I ran home. I have no doubt those men were dead, and they had something awful in store for the girl in the back seat. This was before everyone had cell phones all the time, and I couldn't remember the license plate when I got home. I really hope they gave up their plans and the girl got loose, but I can't be sure. I just know I didn't help them do whatever they wanted to do at the Hollywood sign.